When it comes to issues around food access and availability in Uganda, you've got both urban, rural, and then you've got regional differences. So first of all, you need to start where are particular things produced. So where are particular crops grown? You've got a lot of different agricultural areas. So some places are going to be a lot colder than others. Some places are going to be warmer, drier, wetter. So you need to look at, well, what is going to be able to grow successfully in which area? There, you're going to have better access to things because you can go to the particular place to buy it, for example. And usually the cost is lower if you're buying it from where it's produced. So then you think about, okay, well, what are the parts of the country where you can't grow very much? So for instance, northern Uganda has a lot greater difficulties with producing particular commodities. And there are very different diets depending on where somebody lives, what kind of things have traditionally been produced in that area. So you think about, well, what do people want to eat? Can it be produced there? Can it continue to be produced there? Because things like soil fertility change over time.
Different areas and regions within Uganda will experience at different points in time different problems. My own work has come from the southwest part of Uganda, and some of the issues that people experience there are concerns over land rights, so access and being able to settle. A very small proportion in that area is actually irrigating its land, so there's a big push to try and support farmers in their innovation practice in irrigation, particularly for cash crops. So the majority of people are interested in subsistence, but will sell a small portion of cash crops. But how do you support those people? Better infrastructure, better commercial opportunities, business and capacity.
So you've got that big picture about what's grown where. Then how do you get it to, for instance, major urban centers? You need a good road infrastructure and good road networks. Now those change on a regular basis. There are some that have been vastly improved over time. So in that sense, actually, you can get goods from rural areas to urban areas much more easily than in the past. But then, are the quality of the roads any good? Do they get potholes really quickly? And what's the price of petrol? When there was the election violence in Kenya, the cost of petrol skyrocketed in Uganda. So transport was very, very expensive. You can imagine what happens when you've got a large lorry full of food that's going from a rural area to an urban area. The cost of food dramatically increases. So when you've got price fluctuations in petrol, that directly affects how much things cost in the market.
Uganda has a bimodal weather system whereby we have two weather seasons. Therefore, the access to food in urban areas is dependent on these harvesting seasons. So in case there is extreme weather conditions that affect harvest, this means that urban dwellers won't be able to receive food because production will not be enough to supply to them. And therefore, shortage of food supply tends to increase food prices, and this limits access to nutritious food in urban areas.
There are some things that are imported, like apples, usually seem to be imported from South Africa. You can grow a lot of different commodities in Uganda. There are a lot of different climate zones, and there's a lot of very sophisticated agriculture going on. So it's not for lack of ability, it's just certain products are produced for domestic consumption, some for export. And it depends on what's being produced for whom to eat.
Broadly speaking, Uganda has access to staple foods compared to other countries in the region. 69% of energy foods are from staples, such as matoke, sorghum, which are traditional foods. Rice and wheat are not traditional food, but now they are gaining importance. Predictably, the rich access more nutritious food, such as sugar, oil, meat, rice, and so on, because they have somehow some income. However, poor people who are in rural areas, they cannot afford this food. They depend on staples, which lack some food nutrition, and therefore, there is a wider gap between the urban people in accessing food and the rural areas.
Even within an urban setting, you've got different markets. So there's one that might be a wholesale market. There's one market that might be in a more affluent area, and prices vary between an affluent area and a wholesale market. So some of it depends, can you go to the wholesale market to get your food, or do you need to go to your local market that might be more expensive? So then there's fluctuations in there. So the cost of food actually varies, or can vary very significantly. And when you don't have a lot of money, how much you can spend in the market, that can make the difference between being able to buy 5 tomatoes versus being able to buy 10 tomatoes. It can be that huge difference.
Personally, I think that there are 3 important issues that should be addressed by policymakers. And these affect food security in the country. One is poverty. Majority of people in rural areas, in particular, do not have sufficient resources to buy or to access this nutritious food. And therefore, this affects their diet. Poor farmers cannot access inputs that are critical in agricultural productivity. These inputs such as quality seeds, herbicides, pest control management systems and tools, and therefore all their crops are being harvested by pests. Poverty has forced farmers, even those successful farmers who may have harvested, are being forced to sell off their crops quickly, and therefore they are vulnerable to fluctuating prices, but also they don't take advantage of the rising prices because they don't have storage system.